Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honourable Minister for Health will be speaking later today, as stated by you, sir, on Fiji's stellar record of COVID containment. I'll be speaking now on Fiji's economic recovery through the procurement of safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines. Mr. Speaker, sir, amid the global pandemic, Fiji is one of the safest places on earth, and we thank God every day that we have our health, and I'm sure we all do that. But all it takes, is one drive down the Coral Coast through Denarau or up on the Hibiscus Highway to see the obvious. We are not necessarily okay. Life is far from normal. For far too many of our friends and family members whose jobs and businesses and industries they count on are stuck in what feels like a bottomless rut due to this global pandemic. Globally, this is the most brutal poverty-inducing crisis in living memory. And with global cases surpassing 106 million worldwide, it is clear there is only one way the world will ever return to normal. The same way we defeated polio, measles, tetanus, and other former plagues, the coronavirus will only be stopped by vaccines. The fact that safe and effective vaccines are available to us at all is nothing short of a medical miracle. These remarkable advances have given humanity a chance to defend ourselves from this pandemic in a manner that does not decimate our economies, because immunization, once achieved, protects a nation better than any border possibly can, even one as well managed as Fiji's. As of this weekend, over 128 million doses of various COVID-19 vaccines have been administered in 73 countries around the world. Compare that to the grand total of 0 in Fiji and other sovereign Pacific Island nations. The story is much the same across small island states and the global south. So far, this is shaping up to be a rich country's race. At present, countries with just 16% of the world's population have bought up 60% of the world's vaccine supply. And that means the world's recovery risks being relegated to that concentrated group of countries. Medically, that doesn't make sense. We know no nation is safe unless all nations are safe. Morally, it is indefensible, as it means the gap between the developed and developing countries, as well as large and small nations, will grow wider than ever. Fiji must secure our place in the world's economic comeback by securing vaccines as soon as we can, not months after the rest of the world, but alongside them. Otherwise, our people will be made more vulnerable than they have ever been, exposed to infection, economically disadvantaged, and left behind as the rest of the world races ahead. Mr. Speaker, just imagine the alternative. Say we sit timidly by through the coming months, fail at procuring vaccines in a timely manner, and keep Fiji on the margins of the global economic resurgence. Other future-focused tourism destinations which immunize their populations will reopen their borders and welcome back visitors. Meanwhile, our hotel rooms will sit empty. Those other nations will recreate jobs while Fijians remain unemployed. Foreign airline companies will get their planes back in the air, while our national carrier risks not flying scheduled flights at all. That is not the ground that can be simply made up down the road. Every day we lose out on that recovery will place exponentially rising costs on our economy, costs that are too high to be measured and too astronomical to ever accept. Mr. Speaker, the success of our recovery hinges on our timing. That is why every government is laser focused on procuring vaccines now. Even New Zealand, one of the few nations to match Fiji's success against the virus, is being focused on getting jabs in arms, as they say, as quickly as possible. Safe as they may be today, the Kiwis know they cannot afford to drop the ball on immunization. Neither can Fiji. And yes, there's a cost to procurement, but it pales in comparison to what we lose if we fall behind and our major source markets send their tourists to more forward-thinking countries. Mr. Speaker, the global effort at equitable vaccination distribution is led through a facility known as COVAX. Technically, it is the vaccine distribution arm of the COVID-19 Tools Accelerator, which also covers tests and treatments. COVAX is jointly led by Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, or CEPI, and the WHO, and aims to secure and distribute 2 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccines by the end of 2021. So far, 191 countries, including Fiji, and most recently the United States, have signed up to participate in the COVAX facility. Of this, Fiji is part of a group of around 92 countries that are eligible for donor-funded doses. Mr. Speaker, here's the rub. The timeline for COVAX is anything but guaranteed. It could be many months, or even a full year, until we get enough vaccines to cover a mere 15% of our population, far below anything approaching herd immunity, which is the level of immunization that makes transmission all but impossible. Rich countries are clear-eyed about the urgency of getting as many people vaccinated as quickly as they can, and for good reason. They want the economies back, they want their jobs back, they want their lives back, and they want their people protected. They won't wait. We cannot either. Patiently waiting our turn in the global COVAX queue would be economic suicide for the country. Of course, we're going to work with this facility as much as possible, but we aren't going to bet our people's lives and livelihoods on it alone. Instead, we're working on a bilateral basis with our development partners to secure financial resources to buy vaccines now, as well as secure shipments of the vaccines themselves. So far, Australia and India have stepped up with direct funding and shipment support, and will provide updates on other bilateral arrangements as they finalize. We're also keen to make direct purchases from the companies producing viable vaccines. If you consider our eligible population in Fiji, we're looking at around 1.3 million doses. In the USA, they are vaccinating at a rate of 1.43 million doses per day. So this is a marginal number of vaccines. With the right support, we can make it happen soon. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are currently more than 50 COVID-19 vaccine candidates in trials, with the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine being the first one to have been listed on the emergency use list by WHO. Several country regulatory bodies have approved the Pfizer, Moderna, and Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines through the stringent regulatory authorities. A number of vaccines such as Janssen by Johnson & Johnson, Sputnik of Russia, and the Chinese Sinovac are still in the third phase of trials. The rest of the vaccines are in first or second phase trials. Our standards for the vaccines we'll accept are as high as they are anywhere. Once a vaccine is medically trialed and deemed safe and effective by reputable country medical boards, such as Australia and the United States, we consider them as options on the table. Mr. Speaker, procuring the vaccine or vaccines is only part one. Rolling them out nationwide will be most complex logistical exercise in Fijian history. It's critical we have a plan in place today. Unlike many larger nations whose rollouts are suffering from inconsistent implementation, Fiji can and should be able to vaccinate our population quickly and more efficiently. Our medical staff are battle-tested in vaccination campaigns, and we lean heavily on their vast experience. But due to the nature of COVID-19 vaccines, this will be a far more data-focused and technologically intensive campaign. COVID-19 vaccines are almost all stored at extremely cold temperatures, and most require 2 doses. Mr. Speaker, sir, in terms of cold chain requirements, for the Pfizer vaccine, it is minus 80 degrees Celsius. Moderna requires a storage of minus 20 degrees Celsius, equivalent that to a deep freezer. And AstraZeneca and all other vaccines are stored at normal refrigerated temperatures of 2 degrees to 8 degrees Celsius. Should the Pfizer vaccine be made available in Fiji, we have the required high-degree cold chain facilities, including the capacity to manufacture dry ice to allow storage of up to 30 days. The Moderna, Oxford, AstraZeneca, and all other vaccines are well within Fiji's cold chain capacity. With the exception of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, all other vaccines including Pfizer, AstraZeneca and Moderna require 2 doses per person. That requires careful biometric tracking, and we have a digital registry in development now that will ensure Fijians are vaccinated in line with the most effective dosage timelines. Our COVID-19 vaccination campaign will cover all individuals above the age of 18 years, as all clinical trials for COVID-19 vaccines were conducted on this age group. Given our unique status as a COVID-contained country, our priority group for Phase 1 will be our frontliners, all individuals in border control at sea and air, ports, frontline health and hotel workers, and their immediate family members. Phase 2 will cover vulnerable persons, including but not limited to those with pre-existing comorbidity issues, for example, diabetes, hypertension, and cardiac issues, including rhythmic heart diseases, etc. Phase 3 will cover all those above 60 years of age, followed by any other person above the age of 18. Mr. Speaker, so we're closely monitoring the latest efficacy of proven vaccines against emerging strains of the virus. It may be the case that booster doses are required at later stages. In the meantime, developed nations are pressing ahead with the vaccines they have available. As they should, the science supports it. But we should not go into this expecting that vaccines will immediately send life back to normal and keep it that way forever. There will be a gradual process, and many of the good habits and health protection measures we've adopted must remain. They may always be with us in some form. Mr. Speaker, we expect the COVID-19 vaccines to arrive in phases throughout 2021, starting in the first quarter. As highlighted previously, our vaccination campaign will be implemented in phases according to the schedule of vaccine supplies and deployed in order of priority. The phased supply of vaccines will make deployment somewhat complicated, as priority groups need to be pre-identified, tagged and tracked according to the deployment plan for each batch. However, mitigation measures are being planned to safeguard the effectiveness of the campaign. On the other hand, a guaranteed supply of 1.3 million doses at any one time of, say, AstraZeneca or another vaccine with similar storage conditions could be easily deployed over 12 to 16 weeks based on the Health Ministry's proven capacity and capability of vaccinating between 15 to 20,000 Fijians per day. We will ensure that the relevant authorities and stakeholders are fully prepared and pre-positioned to inoculate target groups as the consignments arrive into the country. Much of this will be based on the type of vaccine we secure, and we are all preparing for all viable options. Given the absence of a national identification mechanism and a digital immunization registry in Fiji, the need to have a credible registration process and an internationally acceptable vaccine passport is paramount. This is where other countries who have robust national identification infrastructure coupled with biometrics are able to deploy these vaccines at great speeds and accuracy. Our priority is to authenticate the identity of the individual who is getting vaccinated, accurately capture the vaccine doses taken, and issue a vaccination passport, which we will discuss a bit more shortly. To do this, Mr. Speaker, government will also soon deploy a national COVID-19 vaccine registration for the administration of vaccines. The point is to identify people prior to the vaccines arriving on our shores. The registration can be done in two ways. Firstly, self-registration, whereby Fijians complete a registration form online from the comforts of their homes. To log into the form, you will need to input your birth registration number, or BRN, which is evident on your birth certificate. Also, for those who have registered for a digital Fiji e-profile, the BRN can also be found on the secure e-profile account. Once both these login details are correctly filled, a form is generated which contains critical questions that will need to be answered. Once the form has been completed, you will receive a confirmation via text message and email if you provide your email address. You will then be able to visit a designated facility to complete the registration by providing your biometric details. Fijians who do not have access to their birth certificates will be able to obtain their birth registration number by visiting the list of health facilities which will be published by the Ministry of Health and Medical Services in the next few weeks. The second form of registration, Mr. Speaker, is face-to-face registration, whereby Fijians can visit designated registration centres to register and give their biometric details at the same time. After registration, Fijians will be notified when to go for vaccination via text. The system we are developing will be able to capture the 2 vaccine doses as and when it is carried out. We are also considering the inclusion of a personalized, what we call a digital wallet, whereby Fijians can have their vaccination details right on their smartphones. The registration system and digital wallet that we are seriously considering are in compliance with the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, and the General Data Protection Regulations, or GDPR, of the European Union. This will allow for cross-border seamless verification and authentication, help us also to travel. The Ministry of Health and Medical Services, as the agency, will be making announcements of when the registration exercise will commence. They're obviously working with the Ministry of Communications behind the scenes to develop these forms and also the digital process. Mr. Speaker, sir, if we talk about vaccine passports, just last week the Global Tourism Crisis Committee called for a vaccine passport, saying it must become an essential travel document to help restart global tourism. A vaccination passport is proof that the holder of the passport has been vaccinated against COVID-19. This is crucial for assuring future travelers that Fiji is safe and open for business. The vaccination passport could be an app on a mobile device, a QR code or barcode printed on a vaccination certificate, or an authenticated way of verifying the individual vaccine passports through information systems. We are actively exploring all possibilities. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is therefore critically important that every eligible Fijian registers for vaccination. We cannot afford to jeopardize our safety and chances of economic recovery, which can only truly begin once the target population is completely vaccinated. The sooner the process begins, the easier our rollout will be. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji has suffered one of the most severe economic crises anywhere in the world. We are a remote, service-based economy, and unlike our friends in the Caribbean, our major markets, Australia and New Zealand, have much more stricter border control policies than, for example, say, the United States. This vaccine will protect us, it will save lives, but it will also be a shot of life for our economy. It will protect our frontline officials who risk their well-being to help Fijians come home. It will protect our tourism workers who hope every day to fully return to the jobs they love. It will protect those most vulnerable in our society, those who grimace every time they hear a person cough for fear of what it means for their everyday lives. Mr. Speaker, we are pleased to have the full support of the Fijian tourism industry in this unprecedented effort to vaccinate our people and get our economy moving again. The hotels have the unique capability to be able to provide additional vaccination venues. Our national carrier, Fiji Airways, has offered to carry vaccines into Fiji, providing the necessary storage conditions, while our airport terminal services have the capacity to produce dry ice. Tourism transport providers like buses and ferry services are also willing to step in to help transport tourism frontline workers while public transportation can feed in to bring members of the other services identified as frontliners. The good news is the industry stakeholders are ready to work with the Ministry of Health and Medical Services to map out the schedules and logistics and work with the Ministry of Communications in the digital effort that we are putting in place, in particular for biometrics. There are other factors, Mr. Speaker, said that we and other developing countries must contend with. We're not only competing with the citizens of wealthier countries due to what can only be described as active global sabotage, we're actually competing with developed world citizens that do not exist at all. According to data analysis, with the pre-ordered vaccines, the European Union could inoculate its residents, about 447.7 million, twice. The United States, 382.2 million, 4 times. And Canada, 37.5 million, 6 times. We're also urging these nations to supply their surplus vaccinations or vaccines to lower income countries. To meet the growing supply-demand gap, several countries have initiated domestic production of medical products and/or are modifying existing medical products for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. The rapid scaling up of manufacturing globally is an obvious, multi-beneficial solution to address the timely availability and affordability of medical products to all countries in need. Fiji may not be able to produce vaccines, but we are fully capable of serving the region as a hub of distribution. Another important barrier to also consider is also misinformation on COVID-19 vaccines, a global trend that is threatening the success of vaccination campaigns around the world, from the UK and US to India and East Asia. Not surprisingly, research has found a significant relationship between the spread of false information about COVID-19 vaccines and people's reduced willingness to get vaccinated. Now we should have an open, transparent and facts-based discussion about all the vaccines we're considering. But we have to base these conversations in medical reality. That starts in this Parliament, and it carries to the grassroots of every Fijian community. We've had numerous stories, for example, with some cleaners in Suvavo House who told us that leaders in their faith-based organization have told them, don't get vaccinated because it is something evil. We are urging, Mr. Speaker, sir, every Fijian to do more than refrain from sharing or spreading misinformation. If you hear it, condemn it, or even better, help guide that person to facts. Lives and livelihoods depend on it. We're talking about Fijians being able to put food on the table, businesses being able to run again, families separated by border closures being connected again, and lives of vulnerable Fijians being saved. Mr. Speaker, sir, we'll say it again. If you hear people lying about these vaccines, please tell them, don't lie about our economy, don't lie about our lives, please stick to the facts. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, sir, this campaign is the most ambitious global and local effort that Fiji has ever undertaken. The stakes are high as they can be. We have to procure vaccines now before the window of an inclusive economic recovery slams shut in our faces. We are doing that through every avenue available to us, and we are willing and able to meet the costs of buying vaccines directly. We don't want to wait around just for handouts. We need to have a rollout plan, and we do. We have a technology-backed, data-driven approach with private sector linkages that can achieve immunization nationwide on a rapid timeline. And Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to be united. God help us if this becomes a political issue. We've spoken to many Fijians who are out of work, too many business owners who are anxious about the future, and too many healthcare workers nervous for their well-being to watch this effort be strangled by anyone's political point scoring. This is a national effort, the most important of our lifetime, and we must meet this momentum and moment together, equipped with nothing less than facts. We can protect our frontline workers, we can protect our lives, we can restore our livelihoods, and we can give our economy the shot of life that it so badly needs. That is what our people deserve, Mr. Speaker, sir, and that's exactly what we are going to do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.